Who knows what the fuck is going to happen now with Conor? Because Conor was involved in some sort of an altercation with referee Mark Goddard, where he jumped into the cage while the fight had not been called yet, apparently. This is Mark Goddard's interpretation of it. And I think Conor's he made an apology, and I think what he was basically saying was that he was angry that the referee had not stopped the fight. First, he thought the referee had stopped the fight, and then he was angry that he had not, because he gets like really concerned when someone's taking a beating too much. And he felt like this guy really was out of it and taking a beating. I think where the confusion was, and I hope I'm not fucking this up, we'll check. The confusion was, I think that Mark Goddard was saying essentially that he had not known whether or not the bell had gone off. He knew the bell was close, but he did not know whether it had gone off. It was too loud in there for him to hear it. And he was concerned, I believe, that it went off. And so that's when he stepped in, because he thought the round was over. He was not necessarily calling the fight yet. Then when Conor McGregor jumped in, since he hadn't already called the fight, he was in a bad situation because the fight, technically speaking, was still going on. I hope I'm not fucking this up. Did I fuck that up?
He made a statement on Facebook. If you
yes, and by the way, I felt the way he wrote this statement was really, it was not just like very professional. It was very poised. I was very impressed with it. I don't want to read the whole thing, but he essentially says the first round was progressing, and then so when the guy got hurt, he said he connected Charlie Ward connected with a left hand that slumped John Redmond to his knees, and at this exact point, I could not and had not made my determination that John was either out of the contest or not in the position to intelligently defend himself. The punch and the action that followed naturally resulted in a surge of crowd noise, one that was so significant I had already made my determination that I could not audibly hear the bell sound for the end of the round. I had made my decision to step in with the belief that the bell had indeed been sounded, which in actual fact it had not. This is a critical fact to the ensuing proceedings. So apparently there was a massive amount of confusion because of the noise. And so it looked like a very reasonable stoppage. See if you can find the video footage. To me, because there's a bunch of video of the brawl itself and all the craziness that happened with it. But it definitely seemed like, if I remember correctly, I've seen it, but last time I saw it was a couple days ago. It looked like a really reasonable stoppage, like a smart stoppage. I could see it and you go, yeah, that he's getting hurt. They should stop this. And then I think Conor just assumed when he stepped in, which you would, especially if it's that fucking loud, you assume there's no bell, and Mark Goddard steps in. See, Conor runs in, and he tackles him to the ground, but there's already cornermen in there. And so these guys are hugging, and Mark Goddard is trying to get control of the octagon, and so Conor comes at him and pushes him, and he's yelling at him. This is just a terrible scene. Terrible scene. You know, and I'm sure Conor, if he could take it back, would take it back, because I'm sure he, realized that this is a disaster. And he even apologized. You can't do that. You can't run in. You got to be sure that the referee stopped the fight. And, they have to have control of the octagon. Otherwise, anything can happen, right? Anybody can get it in at any time, not just a friend, but somebody wants to hurt you. So they don't know what... obviously they knew that Conor was probably coming in to congratulate his friend. But you can't make them give up the rules. Like, the rules are in place for a very good reason. It's to protect the athletes. People get super emotional about fights. And there's many times, I would believe, that if they weren't like very, very stringent in how they allow the athletes to behave, like have a really stringent set of rules, if they didn't do that, those guys would fight a lot. There'd be a lot of chaos. People would climb into the ring and beat the shit out of each other. We've obviously had a few incidents where corners argued with each other, but relatively speaking, when you think about how many fights take place, it's a very small number. And it's one of the reasons why is because we have pretty clear rules. Like, you have to listen to the referee at all times. It's real simple. Like, there's a time where the cage is shut and the referee is in there, and that guy has control of that until he brings somebody in, and he has to have control over it. If he calls the fight, then he calls time, and then he brings the doctors in or whatever he wants to do, or he stops the fight. That is it's got to entirely be his call. And I see that Conor thought it was over, and he was probably like completely caught in the moment. He's fucking happy for his friend. He dives on his friend. They're celebrating. He's thinking that there's going to be a bunch of people in there any second now because the fight's over. He's thinking they're going to open it up and Bruce Buffer's going to step in. But no. It would have been Bruce Buffer. It was another organization, but you know what I'm saying. Whoever their Bruce Buffer is. But then somewhere along the line, he realized the fight hadn't been stopped. And then I think he got very upset, he said, because he has seen people take unnecessary punishment. And he felt like that guy was done. And he felt like to not stop the fight right then would be a terrible thing.